Okay, so in this video, we're gonna learn how to use the shape tool because there's times where the pen tool is really useful in Illustrator, but then there's other times where shapes are actually the best option. So for this sampler, you guys have used Illustrator in the past, so you do not need to create all of these shapes. Just try to do a few of them, just so you get the, point on how to use shapes and make shapes in Illustrator. All right, so first thing you're gonna do is you're just gonna download this template, and you can click here, download image, and that should download right there for you. And I'm gonna go ahead and open up an Illustrator document. I'm not gonna open that in Illustrator. I'm going to place it in. So let's see here. I'm gonna open Illustrator. I'm gonna get a new document, file, new. And I'm gonna go for print, and I'll just get a letter size piece of paper. I like personally, I don't know about you, but I don't think in points. That's like fonts. I think in inches, so I always like to change mine to inches. And then I'll write Dreon Demo Shapes. And you can decide what color mode you want. This was just CMYK. All right, and I'm gonna go ahead and place my image in here. So I'm gonna say File, Place. And I'm gonna look for that image I just downloaded, download. There it is, Shape Sampler. And I can go ahead and place that in here however I want. And you know what? I think I'm gonna shrink it down just a smidge so it will fit on here. Oopsies. Oh, I'm stretching it. Okay, so don't forget you have to hold Shift, which you no longer have to do in Photoshop. You used to have to. All right, so there we go. I've got that placed in here. I'm gonna go ahead and open up my layers. Remember, if your layers are not visible, Window, Layers. Just make sure that is checkboxed. And I'm gonna go ahead and expand this. And then this image here, I'm going to triple click, 1, 2, 3. Ooh, can I not make a template? That's okay. I'll just go ahead and lock this. I'm gonna lock this layer, and then now I'm gonna use that as my base layer for my, to go off of. I'm gonna just create a new layer, and then I'll work from there. And so your shapes, where are they? So 1, 2, 3, 4, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth tool down. You've probably used the circle frequently, but there's some other shapes as well. So rectangles, how do you create a triangle? That's actually the polygon tool. So when you have one of these open, I'll go to the ellipse. You're just gonna drag some shapes like so. It's gonna apply whatever color and stroke you have here. I'm gonna go ahead and delete these. If you want to create a perfect square or perfect circle, make sure you hold Shift. So I'm gonna go back to my shape tool. I'm gonna hold Shift to create my shape. Let's see here, if I want a rectangle versus if I want a square, I'm gonna hold Shift. One other thing you'll notice on some of these shapes, there's these little nodes. So these are called live corners. Let me see if I can zoom in even more so you can see. Do you see? Oh, actually, if I zoomed in, I feel like it's less visible on the projector. So there's these little tiny like circle dots. They're little nodes. These are live corners, which means if you click on it and drag, you can round off a shape. So I'm gonna hit Control Z. You can also select just individual ones. I think you need to hit Shift, click it, and now you can see now it's only moving one of them. So you can see that the shapes are pretty useful because there's some shapes or elements that it's just easier to do a shape instead of doing the pen tool. I'll show you another one where that's pretty useful is when you're doing a star. Why make this with the pen tool when you can just, quickly make it with a shape? You can choose, 5-point star, that's our traditional star. For the star, you also have the option to have live corners, but you need to hold down a key in order to show them. And let me remember, I think it's Control, yep. So you can see if I hold down Control on my keyboard, that brings up these live corners, and I can again, round these off, or Control Z, if I hold Control and Shift and click one of them, now I'm just rounding that one. And that's kind of, isn't there some character that looks like this? Some character or something. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and delete that. So those are some basic shapes. So how do you go about creating this? All right, we'll start with the house because that's like, super simple. So how would you make this out of shapes? One, I'm gonna go ahead and give myself a color here. So I'm just double clicking, I'll pick a color, and I'm gonna turn off my stroke. I'm gonna say no stroke. All right, so how would you create this? It looks like I need a rectangle. All right, and then I'm gonna copy paste because why work, harder when I could work smarter? Looks like I need another rectangle. In this case, I'm gonna use my eyedropper. I'm gonna make it white. I'm gonna move this over here. And it looks like I'm gonna alt drag. Need a little square, etc. All right, how do I do a triangle? That's probably the only thing left to tell you, which is right here. Triangle is actually going to be a polygon. So when you open this up, instead of clicking and dragging, you are going to click one time, and that's going to bring up this box, and you can choose how many sides your polygon should have. So if you want a triangle, that's 3 sides. So you can say, okay, there's my triangle. I'm going to use my eyedropper, make it red so you can see. All right, so that's how I do my triangle. You can modify these shapes once you've made them. So you can see now I can stretch this out. I can move this down, etc. I think by default it gives you equilateral, or all the sides are equal, but you can definitely stretch them and move them around. What else? Oh, and the star, that's the other one. So let me show you with the polygon still. So if you want to make a stop sign, click one time. How many sides does that have? 8. Okay, boom, there you go. All right, and if I want to get back to my triangle, click it again, 3 sides. Okay, you can also, when you're in here, you can change the size. So if you want a really big one, maybe let me start with 2. There you go, that's much bigger, okay? And same thing for the star. If you go down here, the star, by default, I think it's a 5-point star, but you can choose a 7-point star. Okay, versus a 9-point star, whatever it is you want, okay? So that's how you use the shapes. So you're gonna use, black and white shapes. Don't do black and white, do a color, pick like green and white or something. So you're gonna, figure out how can you make these objects or an approximation of them. They don't need to be exact, but how could you do this with just shapes? So the cloud, what is that gonna be? Bunch of circles. And then you're gonna maybe put a white rectangle here to hide the bottom, right? Because that bottom will be rounded. So this is just a bunch of circles and then a white rectangle at the bottom. This one, circle, circle, triangle, rectangle. These are, you can use skinny rectangles for that. For the car, that one, you're gonna use the live corner feature to slightly round those off. And again, you do not need to do all of these. Do as many as you need to feel comfortable using shapes in Illustrator, okay? And I will go ahead and post this video for you.